One of the most common questions I get is how am I booking travel using points? In this video, we're going to walk through our most recent trip to Japan to Kyoto. We'll cover where we stayed, what we used to book, and our thought process. A bit of a different format, but hopefully this is helpful. Big favor before we dive in is to give us a thumbs up to help with the algorithm. If you know someone that might benefit, then share this with them. Starting off with a general strategy for Japan, there's 3 key things. Number 1, the moment you get off the plane and start finding your way into the city, I'd recommend getting a Passmo card. You can get a physical version, but I'd recommend a digital one, so the one that connects to your phone. Main reason being that it's a lot easier, you can't lose it, and you can just tap and go, and it's super straightforward. Number 2, I'd bring a debit card that has rebates for withdrawals. If you have something like Chase Private Client, then that's going to be fine, but otherwise, if you don't have as much AUM, then the Schwab one is a pretty good option that has no foreign transaction fees and unlimited ATM fee rebates. Main reason being that a lot of the mom and pop shops are cash only, so if you go to food markets, then you'd want cash. Number 3, bring credit cards with no foreign transaction fees. If you have a ton of cards, then pick the one that makes sense for you, but if not, then I'd probably go for just something simple. So if you're new to this, your best bets are going to be the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Sapphire Reserve, Capital One Venture, or Capital One Venture X. Given the current landscape and how competitive certain cards are, I'd probably lean towards the Venture X. If you are debating that card, we do have a calculator that should pop up if you Google Venture X, worth it, ask Sabi. Okay, starting off, let's look at the flight. We booked this August trip back in February, so about 6 months ago. That's when we saw a lot of ANA first class from SFO open up, and when they do drops, you kind of want to get in. So for example, for the last few days, we've seen a bunch of Hawaii, Chicago, and San Francisco for first class for next summer. Outside of these drop periods, it becomes a lot tougher. You pretty much have to have someone else who already booked something cancel before you can take their spot. One big caveat is that most of the time, there's only going to be one spot for points. So given this, I had to fly a day before Mandy, and my cabin was pretty much empty other than one other person. Given how the program works, either he has ANA elite status, or he paid out of pocket. But yeah, the entire idea is that I would fly in first, and then Mandy would fly in the next day. There was a tiny hitch with that plan though. So Mandy's flight actually got canceled and rescheduled for the day afterwards. With this, she did end up getting equipment switched to the old ANA first class instead of the new products. At this point, she's 0 for 2 for equipment changes. She did do a full video on her experience on Mandy Roams if you are curious and want to check it out. Speaking of hiccups when flying, this brings us to the sponsor of today's video, Delete Me. Tech issues are bound to happen, and when they do, scammers see an opportunity. They might message you from hacked verified accounts, and they'll ask for things like full name and the cities you're flying between. Once they have that, they can find a lot more other information by searching online. You can actually test this yourself. You can search for first name, last name, and street name. So hackers can get information by doing a search and then relay some of this back to you to convince you that they're the airline. After that, you're probably going to be convinced and comfortable to give them your credit card information, or they'll redirect you to a fake site to pay. One way I've tackled this is Delete Me. When I used to Google myself, I'd find a ton of information like home addresses. You can try to remove all of this yourself, but it can take hours. Delete Me is super easy for this, and I've been using them for a little over a year. In that time, they've reviewed over 36,000 listings, and since have removed a lot of information. My favorite part is that they scan for stuff in the background. For example, stuff popped back up this quarter. They caught it, removed it without me having to do anything. On average, Delete Me finds and removes over 2,000 pieces of data for a customer in their first 2 years, and they've removed over 100 million pieces of data for all their customers. So if you want to protect your personal information, then check out joindeleteme.com/asksebi and use promo code SEBI for 20% off their US consumer plans. After landing, I worked my way into the city to the Hyatt Regency Tokyo. We have stayed here in the past before, and they currently are doing renovations, but it's pretty nice. Even though it technically is in Shinjuku, it's about 10 to maybe 15-minute walk away from the busy parts. Still though, happy to use 15k points when I would otherwise be happy to pay about 300 per night. But yeah, pretty much spent the morning working the lounge, went shopping and walking around in the afternoon, and then had conveyor belt sushi for dinner. Didn't end up doing that many touristy things, but still had a fun time. Once Mandy arrived 2 days later, I met her in Ginza at the AC Hotels. Main reason for moving over there is because we wanted to go shopping and it made a bit more sense. AC Hotels is part of Marriott. We ended up using a 35k point certificate and topped off with additional points. The next morning, we took a bullet train from Tokyo down to Kyoto. Our first stop here was the Ritz-Carlton, which was amazing. Great hard product and just beautiful. Also awesome soft product, so great customer service. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like Kyoto hotels are on another level, and I'd argue that there are a lot of S-tier options that we stayed at. We've been to Japan multiple times, but the service here in Kyoto is unreal. The retail price per night can be $1,200 to $1,500 per night, and average during our time was about $1,400. We ended up booking this with an 85K certificate and then topping off of points. Especially if you like premium hotels, certificates are the meta to get them for a reasonable price and not too much out of pocket. Even if we did have to pay though, I think we'd happily pay $800 per night since it's a great hard and soft product. The Michelin Guide, the one that has the stars, also recently added a new system for hotels. Basically the same idea as 1, 2, or 3 Michelin stars, but for hotels, they're called keys. The Ritz-Carlton Kyoto has 1 Michelin key, and I think it's well deserved. It basically means that it's a special stay and, well, worth considering. We also did end up going to Michelin star tempura restaurant that was part of the hotel, and I'd happily recommend it. A bit on the pricey side, but the question I ask myself is if I could go back in time, would I recommend myself to come here again? And the answer is yes. If you are interested in this hotel, Mandy does have a video on the Ritz-Carlton and the food and everything else on Thursday. She is working through this trip, so consider subscribing and turning on notifications for her channel. The next stop is Hotel de Mitsui, which is part of Marriott's luxury collection. Great location, beautiful lobby, and central areas. It kind of reminded me of Chetty Enrumet that we stayed at earlier this year, and we ended up paying out of pocket for that one through Virtuoso. Back to this trip, lucky for us, Hotel de Mitsui is part of Marriott, and we ended up using an 85K point certificate and topped off of points. And the main reason a lot of this works is because both Mandy and I each have a Ritz-Carlton and a Bonvoy Brilliant card. I'm more than happy to stack hotel cards given the value that we can get, and even if we didn't use the credits, which we do fully use ironically, I'd be more than happy to pay the fee for the certificates. Retail price is about the same range, so $1,100 to $1,500. One interesting note is that there's only 6 hotels in the whole of Japan that were awarded 3 keys. 3 of them are in Tokyo and only 1 in Kyoto, and it's this one, Hotel de Mitsui. A hotel with 3 Michelin keys basically means that it's an extraordinary stay. Beyond the main lobby and the well-designed rooms, there's also a really nice spa. Overall, a beautiful property and a great choice if you want to enjoy some time with Player 2. To be fair, I think the Ritz-Carlton and Park Hyatt had better soft products, but the hard product here is hard to beat. And funny enough, a few of you who were also in Kyoto during the same time, and ironically staying at the same hotels, had the same sentiment. But yeah, compared to the Ritz, this one feels a lot more convenient. Also kind of funny, but we didn't even know about the whole key rating system until we were doing our room tours and kind of reading up on it. Mandy's first thought was that it reminded her of K11 and the St. Regis Hong Kong. And it makes sense because it was by the same designer, Andre Fu, who is apparently goated and one of Asia's most sought after designers. There also was a Michelin-starred restaurant here that we tried, and it was good, but I think I have a hard time recommending it. Maybe if it was half a price, it'd be fine, but otherwise, I think it's a skip. Next, we headed to the Park Hyatt Kyoto. I can't speak for Mandy, but this was by far my favorite hotel of the entire trip. I think a big factor is that it's right next to a crazy packed tourist area and kind of acts as a haven away from the crowds and panic. It's pretty much a calm escape. Soft product here is amazing, 10 out of 10, and definitely S tier. The hard product isn't too bad, but the bathhouse area is on a small end, but that's tough to change. This is a 1 Michelin key hotel where prices start at about $1,400 after taxes and fees, and upwards to almost $2,000 per night. So instead of paying that out of pocket, we ended up using 35K Hyatt points, which is pretty good value. On the top end, we probably would have been happy paying $800 to $1,000 per night if needed, but yeah, I'd rather use points. We also ended up going to the Michelin-starred restaurant here. Pretty good food, good experience, and amazing ambiance. I don't think I would necessarily go back unless you are trying to build a core memory. So it was super cool, it was fun, but I think if you are purely focused on the food, then there are better options for a cheaper price point. The food was tasty and good, but a bit more than I'd like to pay. But yeah, if you're looking for a splurge dining option for your trip and you're only doing one, then this is a pretty good pick. Next up, we had the Roku Kyoto. This is part of the Alex R Hotels and Resorts group within Hilton. I did end up paying out of pocket for this one initially because I didn't see points availability when I was initially booking, and it was on our list of places to try. Stupidly, I ended up booking the advanced purchase rate, which is not refundable. So I ended up paying about $1,000 for the night. Availability did open up afterwards, so I could have used points and got about 1 cent per point, or used a Hilton free night certificate. Also wide open as of right now, so that's an option. So using one of our free night rewards, it would have meant not spending $1,000 out of pocket. This is a 1 Michelin key hotel and pretty unique. The other ones are more city-centered, and this one is on the edge of a mountain and more about the tranquil experience. So the spa and the swimming pools are heated by a hot spring, which is pretty cool. We also did end up getting upgraded to an onsen room, which has an onsen inside the room. Definitely a lot of fun if you're here with your player too. Outside of that though, it's a beautiful place to walk around or sit around and enjoy the water, tranquility, and nature. Food here is a bit on the weak side, but they're also holding you captive, so it's a lot tougher compared to other locations. If you are just doing touristy stuff, then maybe the Roku's a skip, but I think if you are looking for something a bit more unique and something that locals would go to, then this is a good pick. Or if you just need a break from your trip and a break from the crowds. Our last destination here was the Hyatt Regency, Kyoto. There's nothing to really write home about. If anything, it made me realize how good the Ritz, Hotel de Mitsui, and the Park Hyatt were on the soft product. For the most part, this is pretty much just a business hotel or one that's convenient, but it's fine. Only 15k points per night though, and we ended up using a category 1 to 4 certificate, so happy to pay a $95 annual fee on the Chase World of Hyatt card to get one of these nights. If you are using points, you're locking in 2 cents per point based off the $300 retail price, so I think that is pretty good still, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, otherwise in line with other Western options if you are looking to be able to open up your suitcase and have a decent amount of room. It's not really in the most convenient location, but if you are looking to minimize cost out of pocket or maximize the number of days for your trip, then this is a good pick. Okay, before heading back to Tokyo, let's talk about credit cards versus cash. For the street food market, you'd want cash. There are some good eats here, but a lot of them are really targeted towards tourists. If you've had good Japanese food before, then a bit of it does feel like a tourist trap outside of maybe the tofu, eggs, and matcha items. It's fine, but I think there are better food options that aren't here. But yeah, for this place, you definitely want cash. There also was a really good ramen place that we liked in the Gion district that was cash only as well. That's pretty much it. All the other places we went were fine with card. Anywhere that you could use a card, you could use Amex, so not really a problem there. If you are going to a lot of mom and pop restaurants or ramen restaurants, then I'd recommend cash. That afternoon, we headed back to Tokyo via bullet train. We ended up going back to the Hyatt Regency Tokyo and got upgraded to a pretty nice suite for 2 nights. I left a day before Mandy given how A&A award availability works for first, and I got the new product again and was a happy camper. Ended up picking up a second bottle of the 100-year anniversary edition, so pretty nice. Overall, a great trip to Japan, and I've learned that I prefer the winter or fall over the summer. Kyoto was on our vacation list when Mandy and I met like 10 years ago, so glad to finally take the trip together and enjoy a good anniversary. On that note, if you want to learn about cards and support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksabby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise, it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. If you made it to this point, leave a key emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 2 questions: what's been your favorite travel memory or destination, and also what hotels in Japan are on your list? Or I guess, should we add to our list, should we check out and review? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Also, ideally something we can use points for, or is under 1,000 per night. As much as I know the Mon Tokyo is a nice hotel, I think 2,400 is a bit out of our comfort zone per night, especially for a city hotel. Maybe that amount for the Maldives or something, but a bit tough for Tokyo. Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.